What if I told you that surviving the icy hell of ancient Scandinavia was physically impossible for a single person? Imagine a harsh world where endless winter nights last for months on end, and the cold penetrates right through your fur to your very bones. Life in the north thousands of years ago was a daily challenge to nature itself and its harsh laws. In those days, the cold was not just uncomfortable, it was a deadly enemy for every daredevil. One careless step or wet clothes could cost an adult, strong man his life. Watch the video to the end to find out how the ancient northerners turned their homes into biological batteries and what the true price of each winter dawn was. We will examine the amazing engineering tricks that allowed them to keep their spirits up even in the darkest times. The history of the Vikings is full of secrets that helped them conquer new lands and endure incredible trials. You will see the methods they used to turn an ordinary house into a real fortress against the cold. Each new day was a victory for them, for which they had to pay with enormous effort and patience. To begin with, I will reveal a secret that completely changes the usual perception of the everyday life of the northern peoples of that era. In the Viking Age, warmth was never perceived as a personal matter for an individual or a small family. It was considered a sacred common resource on which the physical survival of every member of the community, without exception, directly depended. Every log in the fire was worth its weight in gold, because wood supplies were limited by the harsh nature. The central hearth in a longhouse worked around the clock without the slightest interruption for sleep or rest. It served as the heart that tirelessly pumped life and energy throughout the entire vast space of the building. People did not just sit by the fire for comfort or to cook meals with their families. They literally built their bodies into a single thermal circuit of the room, creating a collective barrier against the cold. The smoke, slowly rising to the very roof, created a dense, thick, and very important air cushion under the ceiling. It served as a natural barrier that prevented the icy street air from descending on the inhabitants of the house. This layer of heated air effectively retained precious thermal energy inside the living space for a long time. This architectural trick allowed the temperature to be kept at a comfortable level even during the harshest January frosts. Every villager was well aware that their personal body heat contributed to the overall atmosphere of the house. Being together in one room allowed the community to significantly save scarce fuel for the main hearth. People warmed each other with their physical presence in this closed and protected space. It was a unique collective art of preserving the spark of life amid the endless and dead snows. If one house in the village suddenly cooled down for some reason, it was considered a harbinger of great trouble. Neighbors immediately came to the rescue to restore the fire and support those freezing with their resources. Indifference in such conditions was tantamount to the harshest death sentence for the entire group of people. Mutual assistance and shared responsibility were the main unwritten laws of harsh northern existence. Keeping warm together required incredible coordination and a deep understanding of the laws of nature surrounding the Vikings. The Vikings intuitively sensed how air and smoke currents moved inside their massive wooden dwellings. They were masters at controlling the flames so that they produced maximum energy with minimum acrid smoke. Every spark was under the strict and vigilant control of the most experienced masters of the house. The walls of dense turf and peat worked like the thick skin of a huge living creature.
Here, Father.
They served as the perfect natural insulator, keeping the accumulated internal energy inside this organism village. Any cold outside simply shattered against the powerful layer of carefully laid building insulation. This turned ordinary houses into real impregnable fortresses against the approaching winter cold. Inside the longhouse, life continued to thrive, even when an icy blizzard raged outside. The hearth united fierce warriors, hard-working women, and wise elders into one unbreakable living chain. Here, the most important matters were decided, and strong alliances were forged to the measured crackling of burning logs. The warmth created the necessary atmosphere of trust and complete collective security. The Vikings sincerely believed that fire had its own soul and demanded constant respect. Caring for the main hearth was an honorable and very responsible duty entrusted to the best. The flame was not to be extinguished under any circumstances until the first spring arrived. It was a vivid symbol of their common iron will to continue living. Do you think modern city dwellers could survive even a week in such a community? Share your honest opinion about this harsh and cramped life in the comments right now. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on new amazing discoveries about ancient civilizations. We are very interested in hearing your point of view, so we look forward to your thoughts on this method of heating. Want to know the main secret of survival architecture in the extremely harsh northern climate? The Viking longhouse was never designed as a simple and random place to sleep. It was a complex and carefully calibrated mechanism for the proper distribution of all thermal energy. Every log and every stone in its foundation served a specific technical purpose. Inside such a house, there were deliberately no unnecessary partitions or interior walls. This was done specifically so that the heat from the central hearth could reach every corner unhindered. The heated air had to circulate freely, uniting the entire interior space into a whole. Any obstacle in the path of the air could create a dangerous zone of deadly cold. People usually slept on special wooden platforms located along the long side walls. They used the heat that the massive earthen embankments accumulated during the short daylight hours. This allowed the body to stay warm even after the fire began to die down. The proximity to the earth, warmed by the sun during the day, reliably protected them from sudden night frosts. Every free space in such a house was used with maximum engineering prudence and efficiency. The Vikings never left empty or abandoned spaces where cold air could stagnate. The dense population of the house ensured a stable and even temperature throughout the winter. It was in this cramped space that they found their main salvation from the elements. The roof construction, made of many layers of birch bark and turf, imitated the thick and warm fur of an animal. It absorbed excess moisture perfectly and did not let the icy north wind inside at all. A unique and healthy microclimate was created inside the house, which sustained the strength of all its inhabitants. Natural materials in those days worked much better than any of their available counterparts. Even the location of the main entrance to the house was thought out with the utmost care and caution. The openings were always made deliberately low and narrow to minimize heat loss when the doors were opened. Often, the entrance was additionally protected by special vestibules or very heavy curtains made of thick skins. This helped to keep the interior cozy and the accumulated heat completely intact. Inside such a dwelling, the boundaries between individual families and their neighbors were almost completely erased. All the inhabitants of the longhouse depended directly and constantly on one common source of life. The Vikings understood that any emptiness or cold in the room was a gateway to death. Living together was the only reasonable way to survive these dark and dangerous times. It was a true engineering of spirit and matter, born of the hard, centuries-long experience of their ancestors. Wood, turf, and stone served only as a sturdy framework for this living, pulsating warmth. Every element of the structure had been tested repeatedly by hundreds of the harshest winters in different regions. Houses were built solidly and to last for centuries, to serve as a reliable refuge for many generations. The exterior of a longhouse often reminded people of a ship turned upside down, ready for storms. This streamlined shape allowed snow to slide easily off the roof without creating an unnecessary, dangerous load. Wild nature itself suggested the most effective and durable solutions for construction to the northerners. They lived in complete and conscious harmony with the world around them. It is amazing how they managed to share their meager food supplies when an icy blizzard raged outside their walls. But what if I told you that everything you believed was not true? Are you ready to learn the truth about how their internal communal economy functioned? Guess what happened next when resources began to run out in the middle of winter? You've probably never heard of this unique and surprising aspect of Scandinavian life. During the winter months, every Viking village switched to a regime of total and strict rationing. Food at this time was seen exclusively as fuel to keep the body going. Every piece of dried meat or handful of grain was strictly accounted for. The individual reserves of each family were often combined into one large common fund for the entire community. This was done specifically to provide the most calorie-rich food for those who worked. Warriors, hunters, and woodcutters received the best pieces in order to maintain their strength for defense and hunting. None of their fellow tribesmen considered this to be unfair or a personal infringement of their rights. During the cold season, the women of the village worked as a single, powerful, and highly coordinated culinary workshop. Every day they cooked huge amounts of nutritious soup in massive communal pots over the fire. This approach allowed the community to significantly save firewood and time on lighting many small fires. One large fire was much more efficient in conditions of severe shortage of dry fuel. The distribution of all resources was not based on personal wealth or the antiquity of one's lineage. The main and only criterion was the biological necessity for the survival of the entire group of people as a whole. If one hunter was unsuccessful, the entire huge community fed him without question. People knew for sure that tomorrow luck might smile on him, and he would save everyone. Salt, dried fish, and all grain reserves were always stored in specially fortified communal granaries. These important buildings were guarded as carefully as the most valuable military treasures from raids. The Vikings believed that personal greed in winter was a direct and despicable betrayal of life. Such discipline made their small settlements virtually invulnerable to any accidental famine. Special social adaptation allowed the Vikings to maintain iron discipline even in the most critical moments. Community leaders carefully ensured that no one was left out of the common pot. This constantly reinforced loyalty to their leader and a sense of camaraderie among all the villagers. Unity in matters of food was their main weapon against the unpredictable northern nature. Each meal became an important social ritual, strengthening the bonds between all members of the community. During meals, future plans for the spring were discussed, and the glorious deeds of their great ancestors were recalled. This helped people distract themselves from the hardships of winter and the constant icy cold outside the walls. Food provided not only the necessary calories, but also the necessary psychological support for the spirit. The Vikings' communal cauldrons were often impressive in size and were passed down as heirlooms. They clearly symbolized the stability and continuity of life in this extremely harsh northern region. The entire internal culture and important traditions of their winter existence were formed around these cauldrons. The cauldrons were a true center of attraction for anyone seeking warmth and sustenance. Even in the hungriest and most crop-failing years, the Vikings tried to preserve human dignity and share. The harsh climate fostered in them a special form of nobility and a high sense of mutual responsibility for their neighbors. Those who tried to secretly hide food from their own people were quickly and permanently expelled from the community. Life outside the warm and well-fed circle of the village meant almost instant death. Do you think this harsh approach to resource distribution is appropriate in modern conditions? Tell us what you think about this in the comments below this new video. like if you agree that complete unity is the only guarantee of success in times of trouble. Do you agree? It's interesting to see how this topic is perceived in different parts of the world. What I am about to show you will forever and irrevocably change your usual perception of the Vikings. Within each northern village, there was an unspoken but very clear and understandable hierarchy of responsibilities. It was a lot like how different organs work together in a complex body. From childhood, everyone knew exactly where they fit in this system. Some of the strong men were responsible for the constant and dangerous gathering of seaweed on the cold shore. Other craftsmen were engaged in the endless repair of wind-damaged roofs or the urgent reinforcement of exterior walls. These actions were not carried out on someone's orders, but as a natural reflex of a healthy organism. People acted in remarkable harmony, without wasting precious time on unnecessary arguments or discussions. Social adaptation to the cold even included a special rhythm and rules of everyday communication. During the dark season, the Vikings spent long hours collectively and loudly telling sagas. This was not simply entertainment for bored warriors during a long wait. The sagas helped to maintain morale and pass on important knowledge and traditions to younger generations. Working together in a closed and very confined space required the highest level of mutual tolerance. Any minor quarrel could lead to a serious disruption of the entire well-oiled system. The Vikings consciously learned to suppress their anger in order to maintain peace in the Great Hall. Conflicts during the cold season were considered an unacceptable and dangerous luxury for a small and fragile community. The village naturally purged itself of those who could not or would not obey. People who did not want to make an honest contribution to the common cause quickly found themselves isolated. Surviving alone among the Arctic ice was a virtually impossible task for any daredevil. The collective was the only reliable guarantee of safety and the successful continuation of one's noble lineage. Each inhabitant was an important and irreplaceable cog in this huge machine made of human flesh. The health and hygiene of all the inhabitants of the longhouse depended on the work of a simple water carrier. Responsibility for the life of one's neighbor was instilled in children from an early and tender age. Thus, the legendary character of the northern warriors, who knew no fear in the face of the elements, was gradually formed. Internal discipline allowed the community to avoid panic, even during prolonged sieges by winter storms. The Vikings completely trusted their wise leaders, who made all important decisions in the interests of everyone. This trust was based on the indisputable fact of successful survival over hundreds of difficult years. The experience of past generations was the most important textbook of life for every new northerner. The village pulsated in unison with the changes in the wild and formidable nature that surrounded it. In winter, all unnecessary activity ceased, carefully conserving energy for a decisive burst in spring. People learned to listen to the frosty silence and understand the signs that the surrounding world gave them. It was a deep and almost mystical unity between man and his harsh and cold landscape. Even the rare holidays during this period were emphatically collective and very restrained in nature. They served to synchronize the general mood and strengthen the belief in the imminent arrival of the spring sun. Joint rituals gave people a sense of belonging to something great, ancient, and eternal. This helped them successfully overcome winter depression and fear of the endless darkness of night. In the next chapter, you will learn how they coped with this truly terrible weather. Want to know a secret that will forever change your life and your perception of comfort? Are you ready for the shocking truth about how their biological defense mechanisms worked? In the next chapter, you will learn how they coped with this terrible weather. The Vikings' clothing was the first and most reliable layer of protection for their collective living organism. It always consisted of multiple layers of high-quality sheep's wool and carefully tanned leather. These layers work together like a modern thermos, effectively trapping body heat. Every tiny detail of their wardrobe had a strict practical purpose in combating the cold. The harsh northern climate did not forgive mistakes, so the Scandinavians perfected the art of dressing. The basis of their wardrobe was a long shirt, over which a thick tunic was worn. Several layers of fabric created air pockets between them, which prevented the cold from reaching the skin. This system allowed warriors and farmers to spend many hours outdoors. Woolen fabric was often impregnated with lanolin, which is a natural protective wax found in sheep. This made the clothing almost completely waterproof and protected against freezing rain or wet snow. The Vikings rarely used buttons, preferring reliable metal brooches and sturdy fasteners. They pressed all layers of clothing as tightly as possible against each other, leaving no gaps. Lanolin not only repelled moisture, but also helped the fabric remain elastic even in severe frost. If the clothing got wet, it still continued to warm the body thanks to the special properties of natural wool. Massive brooches on the shoulders held heavy cloaks in place, preventing them from slipping off during sudden movements. Each fastener was not just a decoration, but an important element of the engineering of the time. Sleeping together around the hearth helped to conserve energy and keep the weakest members of the family warm. The Vikings understood that it was impossible to survive alone, so they stayed in close-knit groups. Collective warmth was as valuable a resource as food or firewood. The entire social structure of the community was adapted to the demands of the cold northern climate. The leather boots of the northerners were always stuffed with dry grass or soft fur for better insulation. This allowed them to maintain sensitivity in their toes, even when standing on bare ice for long periods of time. The air layer inside the shoes was their main secret to protecting their feet from severe frostbite. The Vikings were true masters at creating practical and very durable winter footwear. The soles of the boots were made of thick leather, which provided a secure grip on frozen ground. The grass inside the shoes absorbed excess moisture and served as additional cushioning when walking. This simple device saved thousands of feet from blackening and gangrene during winter expeditions. Good footwear was highly valued and often passed down from father to son. Their entire daily life was strictly focused on conserving every available calorie of heat. The wisdom of many past generations dictated rules that are now studied by elite rescuers. They knew how to use the unique properties of natural materials to their maximum advantage. Wild nature was their main teacher and a very strict examiner in matters of life. The Vikings carefully observed the behavior of animals and learned from them how to protect themselves from the cold. They knew which tree species burned best and which types of fur retained their fluffiness the longest. Every safety rule was paid for with the bitter experience of their ancestors in past harsh winters. Knowledge about survival was passed down in oral sagas and was mandatory to learn from childhood. Heavy woolen cloaks served the Vikings not only as clothing, but also as reliable blankets at night. The quality of the fabric often determined a warrior's status and his real chances of surviving the winter. Women spent months creating thick, warm cloth for their defenders. This was their invaluable contribution to the overall safety and prosperity of the entire large village. Bear, wolf, and fox skins provided maximum thermal insulation in the harshest frosts. The fur was turned inside out or outside out, depending on the specific weather conditions. This allowed for flexible adaptation to the vagaries of the changeable northern weather during long journeys. A successful hunt guaranteed a peaceful and warm winter for the whole family. Even their headgear had a special shape that reliably covered the ears and neck from the wind. Head protection was considered a priority for maintaining a clear mind in any difficult situation. Northerners knew very well that an uncovered head loses most of its body heat. Hats were made of very thick wool with a dense fur trim for reliability. Leather ties under the chin helped the hat stay securely on the head even during a storm. The soft linen lining prevented skin irritation and added another layer of protection. Vikings never left home without headgear when the sun was setting. They valued their health and understood that any cold could be fatal. Every thread in their clothing was literally imbued with the will to survive and conquer the elements. It was real armor, made from simple natural materials, but no less effective than steel. Biological protection allowed them to make amazing journeys across frozen, snowy wastelands. They felt confident where other southern peoples quickly succumbed to the cold. The secret of their success lay in their harmony with the environment and their deep knowledge of the laws of physics. Their clothing was an extension of their home, which they always carried on their shoulders. Thanks to these simple but effective solutions, the civilization of the North was able to flourish in the most difficult conditions. How can this ancient experience help us today to face the challenges of nature? Are you ready for the shocking truth about how these tough people actually lived? Living in a cramped and confined space required the Vikings to adhere strictly to personal hygiene rules. Otherwise, the entire living organism of the village could be instantly destroyed by invisible and very insidious infections. Contrary to myth, the Vikings were one of the cleanest and most tidy peoples of their time. They regularly visited special public baths, which were built in every large settlement. Washing together in hot steam rooms was not only an act of physical cleansing of the dirty body, it was a proven way to deeply warm the entire body to prevent many dangerous colds. The heat helped to effectively remove toxins and significantly strengthened the overall immunity of all members of the community. The use of certain medicinal herbs and resins helped to effectively disinfect the stale air. Fumigating the premises was a strictly mandatory procedure before the start of the long winter season. Fresh coniferous branches spread on the floor acted as a very powerful natural antiseptic. They also filled the long house with the pleasant aroma of a fresh forest and a feeling of cleanliness. Northerners were well aware of the great healing power of forest berries, bitter roots, and various mosses. These gifts of northern nature helped to maintain strength during the long absence of sunlight. Each folk remedy was part of a well-thought-out and centuries-old healthcare system. Keeping things clean was the main and only way to make sure the village didn't die out. Compliance with these rules was absolutely mandatory for everyone, from the great chieftain to the slave. No one had the right to put the health of the entire community at risk because of their laziness. Discipline in matters of hygiene was maintained on a par with iron military discipline on the march. The Vikings understood the direct link between dirt and disease much better than many Europeans of that time. The cramped conditions of the longhouse required special attention to the condition of all clothing and sleeping quarters. Beds were regularly taken outside, aired out, and thoroughly beaten in the fresh air. This helped to successfully combat dampness and prevented the appearance of heavy odors inside the house. Personal cleanliness was synonymous with longevity and health for every inhabitant of a northern village. Even simple personal care tools, such as combs, were essential items. Archaeologists constantly find many beautiful bone combs in the graves of warriors and women. Caring for long hair and beards was an important part of their cultural code and hygiene. A neat appearance was always considered a sign of inner strength and respect for others. Water for drinking and washing was obtained only from the purest sources or from fresh snow. The Vikings carefully and strictly ensured that the sources were not polluted by village waste. Understanding the basics of environmental safety was a vital skill for the preservation of the entire population. They sincerely cherished their harsh land, as it was their only source of life. The ancient tradition of communal bathing strengthened social bonds and created an atmosphere of trust. In the bathhouse, all people were equal before the heat, completely washing away the hardships of everyday life. It was a moment of necessary psychological relief to maintain mental balance in winter. After the bathhouse, people felt completely refreshed and ready for any new challenges. How difficult do you think it was to maintain such cleanliness without modern soap? Guess what happened next when the first person in the house fell ill? What will happen if no one learns about this secret of cleanliness in time? In the next chapter, you will learn how they coped with this terrible weather. Summer and the very short autumn were a time of extremely intense energy accumulation for any Viking. During this period, the entire village worked at a frantic pace, like a wild animal before hibernation. Every hour of daylight was used to gather firewood, hay for livestock, and dry fish on a massive scale. People understood that their summer sweat directly determined their chances of not freezing in winter. Men returned from distant and dangerous expeditions, not only with silver and valuable slaves. The most important trophy was often ordinary salt, which served as the key to preserving food. Without salt, it was simply impossible to make the necessary reserves of meat and fish for 6 months ahead. This was the period of the most active feeding of the entire social organism before the long winter. All warehouses and barns were always filled to capacity under the strict control of the chiefs. The walls of residential buildings were additionally reinforced with new layers of turf and very dense logs. All the smallest cracks in the walls were carefully plugged with moss and dry sheep's wool. The preparations were carried out with almost mathematical precision, based on the bitter experience of all previous generations. The preparation of firewood was a crucial strategic task, for which special teams were responsible. Huge wood piles had to guarantee a steady fire in the main hearth until spring. A mistake in calculations in October inevitably turned into a terrible family tragedy in February. The Vikings never forgave negligence or laziness in preparing for the northern winter. Equipment for winter hunting and traveling in the snow was checked and repaired in advance. Skis and sleds were essential for maintaining communication between individual farms. Every man had to be able to quickly repair his equipment in the field. Readiness for winter was not just a habit, but a real survival instinct honed over centuries. Women worked to create new supplies of warm clothing and durable blankets. Looms in homes did not stop working until the first snow fell. Each new item increased the family's overall chances of successfully overcoming the icy period. The preparations were comprehensive and covered absolutely all areas of life in the northern settlement. Fresh water supplies were also planned in advance in case the nearest water bodies froze over. Large wooden tubs were filled and stored in places in the house that were protected from freezing. The ability to plan resource consumption was a key quality of any Scandinavian clan leader. In this harsh world, only those who could look far ahead were victorious. Livestock was moved to protected barns, which were often attached directly to the dwelling house. The heat from the animals provided additional warmth to the walls of the human dwelling on the coldest nights. This was another manifestation of the unity of all living beings within a single farm. The Vikings cared for their animals as devotedly as they did for their fellow tribesmen. Even religious rituals in the fall were aimed at obtaining the blessing of the gods for the winter. Sacrifices were made so that the fire in the hearth would not go out and the supplies would not rot. Faith gave people the moral fortitude they needed in the face of the approaching darkness and cold. They felt the support of higher powers in their daily struggle for life. Preparations for winter ended with a large communal feast, which symbolized the community's readiness. People shared the last of their fresh produce before switching to a diet of stored food. It was a moment of unity and strengthening of spirit before a long and difficult trial. The village closed itself off from the outside world, turning into an impregnable fortress of life. In the endless, gloomy polar night, light became as important a resource as heat. Oil lamps and very thin wicks provided meager but absolutely necessary lighting. Light helped people navigate the confined space of their homes and maintain their rhythm of life. The Vikings sincerely believed that the fire in their hearth was a sacred particle of the sun. Collective contemplation of the flame united all people on a deep and almost mystical level. The rhythm of life slowed down significantly, completely adapting to the natural cycles of the frozen nature. At this time, the greatest legends were born, which strengthened the social structure of the entire community. Long evenings spent together by the fire gave people the necessary sense of security. The light from the hearth illuminated the faces of loyal tribesmen and beloved relatives from the thick darkness. This created a powerful psychological recharge, necessary for the agonizing wait for spring. Every glimmer on the wooden walls of the house reminded the inhabitants that they were not alone. People drew strength from their shared interests and the common destiny of their village. The art of wood and bone carving flourished during these long hours by torchlight. Masters created amazing patterns intertwining images of gods, animals, and warriors. Creativity was a way to overcome boredom and keep the mind sharp in a confined space. Each carved object carried a piece of its creator's soul and warmth. Women sat by the fire, spinning and embroidering, quietly discussing matters and listening to the stories of the elders. The thin threads of fate were woven into strong fabrics, while the cold wind howled outside the window. Working by the light of the fire was a meditative and calming process for everyone present. It helped to maintain the usual way of life even in the darkest times of the year. The children sat closest to the storytellers, absorbing the history of their people and the rules of survival. Oral tradition was the only way to preserve knowledge in a society that was illiterate at the time. The fire served as a focus of attention, forcing everyone to listen and remember every word of the saga. This is how the worldview of future heroes and wise housewives of the northern lands was formed. Light was also used to send signals between neighboring houses or farms in case of need. A bright bonfire on a hill could mean a request for help or a warning of danger. The visual communication system was vital in the vast and sparsely populated spaces of the north. Fire was their main means of communication over long distances. Light rituals were performed in the middle of winter to hasten the return of the long-awaited sun. The Yule festival was a central event when light and warmth were celebrated with particular fanfare. People lit as many fires as possible to drive away the darkness and evil spirits of winter. It was the peak of winter activity, giving hope for the imminent rebirth of nature. Careful treatment of light sources was instilled in every northerner from early childhood. Accidentally extinguishing a lamp or dropping a torch was considered a bad omen and a sign of negligence. Light was a symbol of reason and order, opposing the chaos and cold of the outer darkness. It illuminated the path not only for the eyes, but also for the human soul. When the fat reserves for the lamps were running low, people huddled even closer to the central hearth. It remained the last and most reliable bastion of life in the village, plunging into darkness. But even in the dim light of the dying embers, the Vikings could see the contours of their future. The light in the darkness was their main belief and hope for salvation. Any important craft in a Viking village was a process that involved many participants. The smithy was often a common gathering place where the excess heat from the forge was put to good use. Making high-quality tools required the perfect coordination of several skilled craftsmen working simultaneously. One pumped the heavy bellows, another held the workpiece, and a third delivered precise blows. This measured, rhythmic work resembled the beating of a powerful heart, creating the objects necessary for life. Weapons and household utensils were always born in the hot fire of collective effort. Fishing nets were repaired, and skins were tanned in groups to significantly speed up the process. Mutual assistance ensured that no family in the village would be left without means. If a neighbor's plow suddenly broke down, the whole village immediately helped to repair it quickly. The total harvest of the following year depended directly on the technical condition of each individual field. Tools were perceived as an extension of the hands of the entire community, aimed at its common prosperity. Collective labor was the only way to sustain life in the harsh north. The construction of new dracars or the repair of old ships in the spring also required the participation of all the men. Everyone brought their tools and skills to work on the common project. The ship was a symbol of the power and freedom of the entire village, not of one particular owner. Unity in labor transformed piles of wood and metal into perfect sea machines. Weaving sails was a huge task for all the women of the settlement during the long winter. A single sail required hundreds of hours of painstaking labor by many hands working together. This process united women of all ages around one great and important goal. The sail was the result of collective patience and skill, leading warriors to new shores. The joint harvesting of ice for food storage in the summer was another example of coordination. Men cut huge blocks from frozen lakes and transported them to special storage facilities. This required the physical strength of many people and the precise organization of the transportation process. The ice preserved the harvest and ensured that the village had enough to eat during the hot summer months. Even simple household tasks, such as grinding grain on hand mills, were often done collectively. People took turns at the heavy millstones, turning work into an opportunity for socializing. The work went faster and easier when it was shared among many participants in the process. Community spirit permeated every detail of their daily working life. Skills were passed on from mentors to students directly in the process of real collective work. Young people learned not from books, but by observing the movements of the hands of their older comrades in labor. This is how unique technologies for processing metal, wood, and bone were preserved for centuries. The tools in the hands of the community were the key to its technological superiority over its enemies. Each item created bore the mark of collective approval and high quality. Things were made conscientiously, as the lives of many people often depended on their reliability. The tools were a source of pride and careful treatment on the part of every villager. They were the material embodiment of the unity and hard work of the northern people. When the work was finished, people rejoiced together at the result of their collective creative labor. Their shared success reinforced their belief that together they could achieve anything. The tools of collective work were the foundation on which the greatness of the Viking era was built. Without this bond, their civilization would never have reached such heights. When the first timid rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, the village began to slowly awaken. It was a great moment of truth, showing the complete success of the entire winter survival strategy. The Vikings celebrated the end of the long winter as the ultimate victory of life over cold death. The longhouses were thrown open, letting in the fresh, clean spring air. Those who had successfully survived thanks to their unity felt an unbreakable bond with each other. The experience of surviving together made them the most united warriors and courageous sailors in the world. The habit of trusting their neighbor as themselves became their main advantage in life. The village was an ideal school of collectivism, where the common good always took precedence over the personal. Any individualism in these conditions was always sacrificed to the interests of the entire large community. This legacy of northern endurance still sincerely amazes all modern researchers. The Vikings proved that a person can withstand any natural disaster if he is not alone. Their villages were real living organisms that successfully defeated the eternal northern ice.
Yes, I can.
The beginning of navigation was the main event of spring, when ships were launched again. The whole village saw off its warriors and merchants on new, dangerous but promising voyages. The joy of returning to an active life at sea was boundless and universal. Winter confinement in a cramped house was replaced by the expanse of salty spray and a favorable wind. The fields began to be prepared for sowing, and once again the entire community went out to work collectively. Spring sowing was the key to future prosperity and required maximum concentration of effort. People worked from dawn to dusk, striving to make the most of the short northern growing season. Unity in working the land was as important as unity in naval combat. Spring holidays were accompanied by communal games and competitions in strength and agility among young warriors. This was a way to test how much the youth had grown stronger over the winter and whether they were ready for trials. Joyful laughter and the cries of the victors filled the air, dispelling the remnants of winter silence. Life celebrated in all its manifestations, returning to its normal course. The elders, who had survived another winter, enjoyed special honor and respect from the young. Their advice on farming and navigation was worth its weight in gold at the beginning of the new season. The continuity of generations was the glue that had held the community together for centuries. Spring confirmed the wisdom of the old rules and the immutability of the northern way of life. New houses and buildings were laid in the spring when the ground thawed and allowed construction to begin. The whole village helped the new family build their first house, laying the foundation for the future. Collective construction was a celebration of creation and expansion of the community's living space. The village grew and strengthened, healing the wounds inflicted by the harsh winter cold. Spring brought not only warmth, but also the realization that they had once again overcome together. This feeling of victory over nature was a powerful engine for the development of the entire Scandinavian civilization. The Vikings were not afraid of difficulties because they knew the secret of collective strength and will. Each new spring was a second birth for them and a chance for new, great achievements. Today we look at the ruins of their longhouses and marvel at their resilience and wisdom. Their experience teaches us to value human warmth and the importance of supporting those around us. The Viking village is an eternal symbol of unity, as the highest form of adaptation. Spring always comes to those who know how to keep the fire burning together on the darkest night. The Viking village truly functioned as a single, coordinated living organism for many centuries. We saw how the harsh nature forced people to create a unique system of complete social adaptation. This historical experience reminds us that the true strength of a person lies in their unity with others. Only together can we overcome the most insurmountable and frightening difficulties on our path. Which of the discoveries about Viking life did you find most surprising or even shocking today? Suggest new topics for future videos that you would like to see on our channel in the comments. It is very important for us to know your opinion and your interests in order to create new, high-quality content. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on new, exciting historical episodes.